you. We tried a new gong today, and we're just not used to it, so we went back to the old one. My name is Lee Anderson, and I'm a member of the Parish Committee, the elected board here at First Parish in Wayland. We are so glad to see everybody here back after summer vacation. It's really terrific. We offer a special welcome to our interim minister, the Reverend Deborah Bennett. There she is. And a special welcome to visitors. We invite you to join us downstairs after the service for coffee. There will be membership committee people at the back of the sanctuary as you leave after the service, and they can answer your questions. We have a mission here at First Parish in Wayland. It is to build community, to search for meaning, and to deepen our spirituality, and to make a better world. If you have questions, please ask Reverend Deborah or Kate Holland, our Director of Religious Education. They're available after the service and would love to meet you. And a big thanks to all our other service participants, ushers, greeters, tech. Their names are in the order of service. And now please join me for a moment to say hello to each other and then to wave to the front camera, because there are people at home on Zoom and they can see you. Great, thank you. And a heartfelt welcome to all. Our service will now begin.
Good morning. That was so beautiful. Doesn't it make you want to just turn and turn? You're welcome to do that. Anybody? All right. I just did it for us. Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Deborah Bennett. Good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome. It is a pure delight to be here at First Parish this morning to gather together for the start of our congregational year and also this beginning of our ministry together, and to celebrate with our annual water ritual service, which is actually one of my favorite, and I'll tell you why a little bit later about that. If this is your first time here, a very special welcome to you. I'm going to be serving as the interim minister here at First Parish. It's a time for me to companion you as you are on your journey, looking for, preparing for, searching for your next called minister, and it is my privilege to serve with you and do some shared ministry together this year. It is said that no same person can enter the same river twice, because the person and the river are both different. They have changed. And yet into any new waters that we come in our lives, we always bring our memories of what has come before, don't we? Today you may carry both very cherished memories of your time here together. You might carry some difficult memories, either here or from other religious places you've been, or times where you ventured into community. All of those memories, all the accompanying joys and sorrows, your hopes and hesitations, they come with you into this river that we gather by. And here in this space, all of that and all of you are welcome. Because indeed, welcome is very much a part of the fabric of Unitarian Universalism. It's what makes a Unitarian Universalist congregation a Unitarian Universalist congregation, does it not? You are allowed to say yes. You are going to get to know that I like participatory worship. You are free to not participatory, but if you would like to participatory, it is always welcome. Okay, I have to tell you a little story about this thing I read. So there was this kid who was like, someone was saying the word amen, and they didn't know what that was, and they were like, well, what is that? What does that kind of mean? And the parent kind of described it to them, like the ending of something and putting an exclamation on something, sending this message out to the world. And they were like, oh, it's kind of like hitting send. And they were like, yes. So if amen doesn't quite work for you at any point when I'm speaking, you can hit send, and out into the world that message will go. All right, back to my script. So welcome will be our theme for this month as we really explore all the many ways that we welcome, both welcoming ourselves, welcoming our full selves into life, as well as welcoming each other in an ever-widening circle of love. And that all is part of an overarching theme that we're going to hold this year called, very simply, this question: what does it mean to be Unitarian Universalist? Just a tiny little question. Right? We should be able to answer that, at coffee hour today. It's going to be a great year indeed, and I look forward to getting to know you and exploring your answers to that question. For now, I'm going to begin today's worship with these words adapted from a colleague, Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. And he says this: "You have come through these doors and into this place. You have come to be with others who care about what it means to live on this beautiful blue-green world. You have come to be with your innermost self, to hear the deep wells within you, brimming with courage and vision. You have come to rest in the divine silence, to be renewed by not having to be anyone other than who you are right now. You, one small yet very precious part of the eternal cosmos. You, all of you is welcome here." So let us collectively welcome each other by sharing our chalice lighting words. The Collin family is going to light our chalice, and I have not met the Collin family yet. Here they are. Thank you. The chalice lighting is something that we do, and often Unitarian Universalist congregations do each Sunday. It's a reminder, its light is a reminder that we want to be a beacon of love and light in the world. The chalice lighting words are in your order of service, so as our chalice is lit, please join me in saying them. With open minds and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world. Wonderful, thank you. Let's join our voices together by singing a hymn. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able. We're going to turn to hymn 347. Gather in spirit. It's a beautiful hymn. Sing it out.
Above
Such a beautiful hymn. It says so much, doesn't it, about why we're here this morning. I want to invite us into a time of centering because you know what? How many people have a busy life? Are you busy a little bit? Do you ever get permission to just do nothing? So I'm going to give you that permission and in fact invite you into this time and space right now. We call it a time of centering, a time of prayer for some people, but it's a time to just do that little bit of inner look, right? So much of our life is this outward gaze. I'm looking out, wondering how you're looking at me. Anybody do that? Once, maybe in your life? So if you like closing your eyes, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. If you like just having a soft gaze, that's fine too. But it's a time to take a breath. Take a breath and allow that external gaze to take a break. In the quiet of our sanctuary, in the fullness of our hearts, know that you are safe here to take that pause and look inward. Rumi has said that our task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within ourselves that we have put up against it. So in this quiet of your heart, I invite you to take a breath and to feel the knowing that who you are is just love. What would it feel like to know that? Beyond all the doing and thinking and trying, you are simply love. Take a deep breath into your body, into your heart, in whatever way works for you. Tell yourself that. Whisper it into your own ear. No matter what's going on, no matter what you see as you look inward, know that you are love. And take a moment, just sit. If you find yourself tempted to think about something or do something different, just remind yourself this might be one of the few times in your week where permission is offered to you to pause. Offering a prayer to yourself for the remembrance of this love that you are. Taking one or two more breaths, and as you feel ready in your own time, you can open your eyes as we prepare to hear the joys and sorrows of our community. Invite Debbie Levine. I don't see you. Oh, there she is. Come on up, Debbie. Debbie, go ahead. No. Hold on one second. We're doing something a little different where we play the music while we're walking and talking a little. I didn't tell you that before. This is new. Yeah. Go ahead. This is the dress rehearsal. The service is at 11.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Levens, a lay minister for this congregation. This is the time in our service that we set aside to share our joys, and our sorrows. In both our sharing and in our witness, we affirm our covenant to care for one another. Today, Reverend Deborah will light the candles as we share our joys and sorrows. I don't know.
Thank you for holding everybody in our hearts. I have a story I would like to share with you today. This is a story I wrote. It's called The Water Remembers. So this is a story of a little girl that long time ago lived in a little cabin out in the woods with her mother and her father. And one morning, the little girl woke up, and her mother and father told her it was a very special day. They said, "It is your 6th birthday, and we're going to take you someplace special." So they gathered her up, and they gathered up a picnic, and they took her, and they walked down the lane away from the little cabin in the woods, further than they had ever walked before, and they walked and walked until the woods gave way, and there was a meadow, and in the meadow was this beautiful, crystal clear pond. And the little girl got really excited, and she ran down to the pond, and she looked in the water, but she was startled. She'd seen something she had never seen before. And she went back to her mother, and she told her what she had seen. Her mother smiled, and she said, "Oh," she said, "that is your water reflection." And the little girl said, "What's a water reflection?" And she said, "Oh, your water reflection can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It depends on how you treat it. Always be honest with your water reflection, and it will always offer you joy." So the little girl was like, okay, she wanted a friend. So she ran down to the water, and she looked into the water, and she saw her water reflection, and she began to talk to her water reflection. And she told it all about her mother and father and the little cabin in the woods and all the things they did. And then she got quiet, and she remembered what her mother had said, to be really honest with her reflection. So she also said, "And I'm lonely sometimes." And she began to tell the reflection all the other things in her heart, how she was sad sometimes and the things that bothered her. But then she also told it her hopes and her dreams. And she was making a really good friend with her water reflection. The friend would smile when she smiled and cry when she cried. They were becoming really good friends. And at the end of the day, after they had splashed around in the water, the little girl was a little sad. She was like, "Well, I don't want to leave my new friend in the pond." So she had an idea, and she asked her mother, she said, "Mother, can I have one of the mason jars that we had our lunch in earlier?" And the mother said, "Sure." So she said, "I'm going to go, and I'm going to scoop up my reflection and take it home with me." And that's exactly what she did. And she scooped it up, and she put the lid on real tight, and she took it home, and she put it by her bed, and she had the best night's sleep ever. Well, a year went by, and it was a whole year on her 7th birthday when her mother and father said, "We're going to go back down to the pond." And she was so excited to go see her friend again. She ran down to the pond, and she looked in. The little girl in the pond looked different than the one that had been there a year before. But she still looked like she was nice. So she sat by the pond, and again, she told it all her hopes and her dreams and her sorrows. And then she made the decision. She said, "You know what? Every year I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to scoop up some of my reflection, and I'm going to keep it." And that's exactly what she did. And years went by, and she would go down to the pond on her birthday, and she would tell it everything that was in her heart, share with her water reflection, and scoop some up and take it home. And many years went by, and the little girl went off to school and got there a little later. And then she got married, and she moved further away. And gradually, she stopped visiting the pond altogether. Well, many years went by, and one day, the little girl, who was now a grandmother, moved back into the cabin in the woods. And on this day, her grandson was coming to visit, her 12-year-old grandson. Now, he wasn't all too thrilled about coming out to the cabin in the woods. He felt that him and his grandmother had absolutely nothing in common, and the grandmother wasn't sure how it was going to go either. After all, this grandson was always busy and never seemed to call her on the phone very much. But he got there, and she tried to talk to him, and he would always say, "Oh, Granny, you have no idea what my life is like. Life back when you were little was so different. You have no idea." And he'd put his little earbuds on and go off into the woods. Well, the grandmother had an idea. She said, "You know what, grandson? Come with me." And she told the grandson, and they went into the little shed, and into the shed, they got this big box, and she said, pick up that box. They had to rumble through all that stuff in the shed that no one knew how to use anymore. And he picked up his box, and she said, follow me. And it was quite heavy, and he was a little surprised that Granny was being a little bossy, but she went out ahead of him, and he just tried to keep up, and he was carrying this big, heavy box, and down the path they went, and down the path they went, and finally they came to the pond. And he sat down the box near the pond, and the grandmother said, look in the pond, what do you see? Ah, just some dirty water and rocks, he said. No, look closer, she said. And she stepped back as he leaned in, and he looked, and he was like, oh, I see a very unpopular kid with some ugly braces. Said the grandmother. So the grandmother opened the box, and she got out a little jar that had the number 6 on it. And she handed it to her grandson, and she said, pour a little bit of this into the water. And he did, and he took it, and he poured a little bit into the water. And to his surprise, an image started to come into the water. It was a little 6-year-old girl. And the image started to speak to him. And it talked about a little cabin in the woods and a mother and a father and all the things she loved. And it talked about being scared, all the things she was scared of and all the things that made her lonely. And the little boy was amazed, and he looked up at his grandmother. They paused for a second, and she nodded to the box. So the little boy went to the box and looked through the box, and sure enough, there were jars with numbers 7, 8, 9, 10. And he found the jar that said 12 years old, the same age as he was. And he picked up the jar, and Granny nodded her head. So he went over to the pond, and he poured that one, just a little bit of that one, into the pond. And sure enough, the reflection that happened, all of a sudden, the little girl was in the pond. The little girl looked like it could have been his twin. And the little girl was crying. The little girl was saying how she loved somebody who didn't love her, and that how she thought herself a very unpopular and hideous-looking creature. And she was crying, and the little boy had to hold back his tears because he knew exactly how she felt. So he looked, and he thought, oh, I wish I could tell her how beautiful she is. I think she's beautiful. And he listened to the little girl's stories for a while, and then he got quiet, and he looked up at his grandmother, and she looked at him, and he said, Granny, could I take one of those empty jars? And the grandmother said, yes. And she stepped back, and she handed him one of the empty jars, and she said, make friends with your reflection, and you will have a lifelong friend. Be honest with it. Tell it all that is in your heart, and it will tell you and remind you that you are loved and you are never alone. And that is what the little boy did. Choir. I wonder what your little jar of water would say if you had one to pour into the water. Your 6-year-old self, your 12-year-old self, if you've made that far yet. We are indeed the water, right? The water is us and part of us. In our bodies, the water carries memories. In its streams and rivers and oceans, the earth's water carries its stories. And sometimes those stories are magnificent and beautiful, but usually they're also filled with pain and sorrow as well. We can try to hide, but I feel like the water remembers. I remember as a child, if I ever complained about getting wet, my mother would playfully retort, "You were wet before you were dry. Stop complaining." She had a point. For in our stay in our mother's body, we were in liquid, mostly water in the beginning. And that liquid surrounded us and protected us. And I believe it spoke to us. I believe it carried the messages of our ancestors. It carried their hopes and their dreams and their life lessons that they wanted us to hear, to carry forward. I believe if we are quiet, that we are quiet in the womb so that we can hear those messages, so that they can impact us. In the video that I shared in the e-blast this week, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to view it, it was a group of indigenous women, and they shared a beautiful water ritual song. And one of them opens the video by saying, "The water can hear you. The water has memory." And when you think of our bodies are somewhere around 70 or 80% water, what is the memory that they carry with them? I think this is one of the reasons that most faith traditions across time have honored the sacredness of water and used water as a carrying tool for the sacred. Water is said to cleanse not only physically, but spiritually. Ablutions are familiar to many spiritual traditions. That's the ritual cleansing that you do before you pray, before you prepare yourself to meet with God. For Muslims, ritual washing is called wudu. For the Jews, it's called mikvah. Sikhism uses a ritual with water, making it amrit, the nectar of the gods, to do their blessing. I'm sure many of you experienced baptism in your earlier lives, right? One of the most sacred acts for the Christian faith. Holy water is a vital part of the sacred ritual of cleansing and blessing and committing one's life to the faith. For the Catholics, baptism is believed to remove the stain of original sin. And of course, pagan and indigenous rituals always include water, both honoring it and blessing it in their rituals. For Hindus, it's considered one of the sacred rites of passage to go down and be purified and submerge yourself in the Mother Ganga, the great Ganges River. Last year, I got to travel to India, and I spent some time by this sacred river called Mother Ganga as it flowed from the Himalayas down to Varanasi. And in Varanasi, the river flows, and there's all these steps that go down to the river and a walkway, and each of the steps is called a ghat, and they each kind of have their own personality. And each morning, like many other travelers, I would find my way to the ghats, down to a ghat and down to the river. And when I was down there, I noticed that there were two kinds of people, or it seemed to be two kinds of people. First, there were those that seemed to be very interested in cleansing their bodies. And it wasn't unusual to see a whole family, the men usually bare-chested, women in their saris, children often with nothing on, knee-deep, sometimes waist-deep in the water, splashing themselves, getting ready for the day. And the second people I saw, often not more than 10 feet away from the first, were those who seemed most interested in cleansing their souls. Often it was a lone sadhu, a spiritual seeker, usually a man, standing in the water, reciting long prayers, and then ceremoniously dunking himself in a sort of daily self-baptism over and over again. What was striking to me was that these two seemingly separate uses of this great river did not seem at cross purposes. They did not compete for one another. Those bathing were not mad at the sadhus, and the sadhus seemed not to notice those bathing. They were not bothered by the existence of each other. In fact, they seemed somehow to perfectly coexist. Both the sacred and the profane were welcomed there, side by side. In fact, not only was there room for both, I think in some ancient way that perhaps only that water knew, both seemed to be vitally necessary to the river. In Unitarian Universalism, we begin our congregational year with a water ritual. Some call it a water communion, bringing together the waters, communing with them. It symbolizes bringing together parts of the community into one body. And I'd like to see it as an invitation to also bring together all parts of ourselves into this community. Instead of deciding that there are some things that we bring into church on a Sunday morning and some things we don't, what would happen if all of you was welcome here? The joys and the sorrows, the pretty parts and the not so pretty parts. What if they were allowed to all coexist right here, right in this river of the community, one not bothered by the other, your sacredness and your mundaneness? Our Unitarian Universalist water ritual was created back in 1980 when two Unitarian women, Carolyn McDade and Lucille Scheck Longview, were asked to create a ritual service for the Women and Religion Continental Convocation of Unitarian Universalists. And they shaped this service, and they wanted it to create a new ritual that, in the words of Longview, said, they wanted to create a ritual that spoke to our connectedness to one another, to the totality of life, and to our very place on this planet. And so water was their chosen vehicle, and it makes sense. Water equals life. Now, just to be clear, we do not do this ritual to absolve you of any original sin, mostly because most of us don't believe you have one. Good news. And we will not ask to submerge you into our bowl, mostly because you won't fit. But then why do we do this? Well, the Western Taoist Alan Watts has said, we did not come into this world, we came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. And I think we do this ritual every year as a way to remember the ocean from which we have emerged, existing for such a short time before we return to the ocean again, just like a wave. We do this ritual to remember that just as the ocean is not the whole ocean in one drop, that we can't fully be ourselves until we are part of a community. It takes each of us adding our profane and our sacred selves to the communal lake. And we do this ritual to remember that the people of Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi, and Baltimore, Maryland, and too many other places where a crisis of water is a real and present danger, that they too are not separate from us. And just because you could turn on your faucet this morning and trust what was coming out of it did not mean that everybody in this country or on this planet can do the same. And yet the waters are connected. Their water and our water come and return truly from the same source ultimately. I also think we do this ritual as an act of renewal. We are a non-creedal faith, and what that means is no one asked you what you believed when you walked in the door, and no one's going to ask you to sign a covenant of belief to be here. But we're not creedal, but we are covenantal. And that means we agree how we want to be together, what we aspire to be together. And to do this ritual, as we do this ritual, I believe it's a way that we renew that covenant, because covenants are nothing if not necessitating to be renewed. We renew our commitments to each other and community, the commitment to share our full selves, the commitment to contribute to the community in various ways. And we do it to renew our commitment to the world, knowing that what happens in this congregation on a Sunday morning is only a small part of our faith, and that what we take from here is also important. We do this ritual of remembrance and renewal to recognize how water binds us and how profoundly it shows us our interconnectedness. As we enter our ritual, let us remember who we are and who we aspire to be together as a community. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to hold the water container that you brought. If you did not bring a water container, the ushers have some to hand out. I think, are there still some left? Plenty? Okay. So at least one per family and maybe more. So if you need a container of water, could you raise your hand? Choir, I'd love you to participate as well. Maybe we can bring a few waters up there. I don't know how many people have them. I love ritual. There's this beautiful quote from the anthropologist and communication professor Mark Pedley. And he says, ritual is a primary site of contact between self and society. It's a place where our individual selves are transformed into our collective selves. Isn't that beautiful? That ritual is one of those places where we come out of ourselves and recognize ourselves as part of a community. And like the great Mother Ganga River, our ritual holds both the mundane and the sacred and can be a place of contact between those two, as I hope that this space is for you on Sunday mornings. That you return again to this space as that place where you can remember and renew. So if you can hold your water in your hands. I'm going to invite you to just hold your water, take a few breaths, feel the water in your hands. If you have brought water from home and know where it comes from, you can think about where your water had come from. Otherwise, just think about the journey that this water has taken to get here. And first, I'm going to invite you to bless this water with your memory. So into the water now, bring to mind a memory you have from the past, perhaps something from the congregation, from your own spiritual journey, or maybe a way distant memory from when you were little. And take a moment and bring that to your mind and let that be held by the water. Who were you in that memory? Was it a joy? If you feel comfortable remembering a sorrow or something that is hard, let that memory be there too. They both exist in all of us, whether we remember them every day or not. They're part of our lives. Allow the water to hold that memory. And take a moment and imagine the water reflecting that back to you. And I'm going to ask you to bring to mind something you would like to contribute to this community. I'm going to ask you to infuse that into the water. Think of a contribution. Who are you? What is your contribution as part of this community? That can be something as simple as I contribute my smile on a Sunday morning. I contribute my presence. Or perhaps it's something more. So think about what it is you want to contribute to this community. And then last, bring to mind a hope that you have for this community. What is it you hope for? how can this community and being part of this community nurture you and hold you? Think of that hope that you have. I'm going to invite you in a moment to take that water, and we're going to bring it into our communal water, which we're actually going to use this nice big bowl here. And row by row, and I think the ushers know how to excuse you row by row, or we're just going to randomly come up and we'll form a line, and you can pour your water in here, adding your memories, your contributions, and your hopes to our communal bowl. If you have one or two words you would like to say about what it is you're contributing or your hope for the community, feel free to use the mic. That part's optional. But it is important that we all have a moment to bring our water and our contributions and our hearts and see what we create in our river. So please come forward as you will. I think, Kate, you're going to help them come forward? Sure. Feel free to use the mic if you'd like to say one word or two, or not. You put it in now. Let's go that way. We have multiple rivers. Here's a good. Would you here do this? Watch this. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Sue. Thank you. The mic is still open for anybody that would like to contribute. It's beautiful to see the lake become bigger and bigger with each contribution. It's beautiful.
Saying anything.
Go for it, Jim.
My hope is to get to know more people, new people, and to get to know old people a lot better.
Awesome. Beautiful.
I brought some more rain.
Oh, right there.
My memory is my dad teaching me how to float on my back with all the patience in the
Oh.
world.
It's beautiful. Right in there. You can pour it all in if you want. Thank you. And when you pour the water in, feel free to take a look at the reflection, your beautiful reflection and what you offer. She could fit in there. We may have a baptism today. Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
This water represents hope for the future, and it's from Pacific Ocean.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
That was water from my dog's favorite swimming hole. He died this summer, so I have many happy memories of his pure joy,
Oh.
swimming and running in the woods.
I see him in there. He's in there.
Hopes for a new beginning. Water from a family gathering place, the Atlantic Ocean, and a new generation enjoying it.
Not what you might think.
I won't say that I wasn't thinking that as you poured it in. This will be our punch bowl for the after. Hygiene. Thank you, Laurel.
My memory is all of us gathering for retreats at Geneva Point down on the beach, the kids playing in the water. And my hope is for deepening together as a community of faith.
It's beautiful. Ah. Thank you, Polly. It's now our new favorite ritual, isn't it? Rumi puts it this way. He says, "Listen, old drop. Give yourself up without regret. In exchange, gain an ocean." Right? Doesn't that summarize up community? Listen, oh drop. Give yourself up without regret. In exchange, gain the ocean. Listen, oh drop, bestow upon yourself this honor, and in the arms of the sea be secure, who indeed should be so fortunate, an ocean wooing a drop. And indeed, this community woos you and invites you in to return again and again, to be nurtured by these waters, and to gather here often. Amen? Send. So another way that is important for us to sustain this community is through your financial offerings. So I want to say thank you to those who give online. I know nowadays many of us do. So thank you for that. If you are somebody that prefers to give a cash donation or want to make an additional cash donation any Sunday morning, we do pass the plate. So feel free to offer that now. If not, it's totally okay. We understand many people also give online. Please enjoy this music.
everyone.
Morning, Kate.
It's beautiful to see everybody. So, who carries a purse to where they go? And who carries a backpack? And who carries a computer bag? Anybody for fanny packs?
Ooh.
That blast to the past? So, this morning, we have set up to do a backpack blessing. And so as we start our year together, the thought was to have something that we can carry together on those things that we carry outside of this congregation, outside of these walls, that can remind us of what we come here for and hopefully what we want to take out into the world. So many of you will have been offered a button, and I'm sure there will be extras, so if you're here online and stop by church, you're welcome to pick up a button then. Some of you aren't button people, I respect that. So on the button, it says open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. And every Sunday, the chalice is lit, and we say our covenant together. And all of these are pieces of our covenant that we say together. So my hope is that you can pin this on something you're carrying with you. And if you're not going to do that, if you could put it up on your nightstand or someplace that you'll see every day and just glance at it. And remember what we as a community stand for and what we can carry out of this community into the work in the world that we do. So, if you don't have a button, there's more. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. And we'll just, you said it all so well. I was going to do a blessing, but that was blessing. May our buttons be blessed, and may you take them out into the world and spread them. And can I tell the secret? Kate has a button machine now. So if you need one and you didn't get one, there are more can be made.
And during the year, I think I may make some buttons and hide them around, and we'll play button, button, where's the button? Doesn't that sound fun? We'll have different kinds. It'll be cool.
Awesome. Let's sing together in a close of our worship. And let me just acknowledge that I do try to be really good about the 60-minute thing, but you're going to all have to give me the 1 or 2 extra when we have rituals, okay? Is that all right? All right, let's rise in body or spirit. We're going to sing one of my favorites. I know you're going to hear that a lot. All this stuff is my favorite. 10-08. It's in the teal hymnal, if you have a hymnal right there. It's called When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's a beautiful hymn. Sing it out so the next door neighbor congregation can hear you. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every turn, every creed and cry, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place. If it is your first time here, as it is mine, this is our lovely ritual at the end of the service for the final hymn to turn and face the doors from which we have come. It is our way to symbolize the work continues of this community out into the community. It's also so we can see the beautiful choir. May our hearts remember that they are always holy, and may we gather by these communal waters often. We are not a drop of water in the great ocean of life. We are the ocean in a drop, and every ocean and every drop matters. I think I'm supposed to do something. Oh, now we're done. Is that it? What do I do now? We're good. I think I go back here and then you come out and I say hi. We listen to music? We're going to stand here.